Hey guys, Arius Comics here. So today Jeremy Renner is cancelled and Hawkeye is replaced with Hearing Hawkeye. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, just stick around till the end. I'm gonna explain everything. So, why is this happening? As of late, though, there has been a great deal of controversy surrounding the Hawkeye actor, including Renner allegedly threatening to kill his ex-wife, Sonia Pacheco. She also alleged drug use on Renner's part and further abuse. Um, they divorced and they're having a custody battle over their daughter, and we're not really gonna get into that. It's an allegation at this point, so we don't really know. It's also not our business in a way. We're just gonna stick to some Marvel fans that are voicing their support of this move. Of course they are. Let's see what kind of fans support this move. One fan, Sherlyn Eaton, pointed out that the MCU replaced Terrence Howard with Don Cheadle between Iron Man and its sequel, so viewers can suspend their disbelief enough for Marvel to cast Renner. This is stupid. We're gonna see why. Y'all, stop. So, I actually hate y'all. I hate to see it. I hate to hear it. I hate to have to say it. I hate to read it. Y'all is or was a thing contained in the south of the United States. It was a particularity of Southern American dialect, if I could call it like that. But since I'm old enough to remember forums, people on forums started to use it as a funny way to say something they didn't really believe in, and the joke was that was like a southerner talking. So it was used ironically, basically. At some point, people kind of started to lose the irony, and more people used it, and the irony was lost. I know which one came first, so whatever. And the irony was lost, and everyone started using it, and that's how we got here. When every liberal, young liberal living in a coastal city uses y'all. That's kind of my theory on how we got here. For me, y'all sounds like, you know how a cow moves? For me, y'all is the sound that an exotic farm animal from Asia or Africa would make, if that makes any sense. So I really hate it. Y'all swapped Terrence Howard for Don Cheadle on some they all look alike business. No, she's trying to paint Marvel as racist and that they changed the actors because all black people look alike. That's not actually true, because we have evidence that backs up other reasons, such as multiple articles saying how Terrence Howard is not fun to work with in a movie set because he likes to party a lot, he misses shooting times, he's angry and prone to verbal fights with colleagues and directors. He also, after the first Iron Man became a big hit, he also started demanding more creative control, more money, more screen time, and that's what actually got Marvel to stop working with him. As you know, the only person who can do that is Robert Downey Jr., because he's the one who made the franchise, he's the face of the franchise, so he's pretty much the one who can command that level of demands. It also happened, the same situation also happened with Edward Norton and Mark Ruffalo. The Hulk movie, which came out the same year as Iron Man did, had Edward Norton in it, and Edward Norton had a similar situation with Terrence Howard. He didn't miss his shooting times, and he wasn't partying that much to be a bother if he was partying at all. But he was having fights with the director on almost all of the scenes. He was demanding more creative control, more screen time. He was he was too powerful in advocating for his ideas on where to take the next movie. Also, big difference, he was the main character while Terrence Howard was a supporting character. So More importantly, also Edward Norton demanded more money, so that also got him the boot, and they brought in Mark Ruffalo. Um, Also, Iron Man 1 didn't really have all of this continuity baggage that we have now, because Iron Man 1 was the movie that started everything, and you can see that from how the movie is. So it has a Marvel formula because every other movie is based on it, but it also has a subject that will probably never be revisited in the MCU too soon, which is Iron Man goes and kills terrorists. Would you actually see any other Marvel character doing it in any of the next 20 movies, maybe? Probably not. And it also has, like, I feel, a different aesthetic. Like, it's more real. The armor feels like it's actually, like, made of metal. Because by the third Iron Man, like, the Avengers one looked good, but the third Iron Man movie armor, like, there's a scene where, like, a truck hits it and it kind of disintegrates like Lego pieces. So there's also that going around. So Hawkeye's been in what, 4 movies now? He's been in like 3 Avengers and Civil War. He also has a cameo in Thor, but that doesn't really count. But now we get to my favorite guy, gay, deaf, and sassy comics guy. How can you not love gay, deaf, and sassy comics guy? Now would be the perfect time to make Hawkeye #deaf in the MCU like he is in the comics. Let's unpack that. So we already know everything we're supposed to know about gay, deaf, and sassy comics guy because he's gay, deaf, and sassy and likes comics and he's a guy. So #deaf in the MCU like he's in the comics. He's not deaf in the comics. They just made him like a few years ago deaf in the comics, but that's against the last 50 years of his history. Get deaf. Why is deaf capitalized? I have no idea. I know some people are arguing that the deaf community is a culture. I don't know about that. I don't want to get into the argument, but I mean, I saw this tweet. So these Russians, of course it's Russian, you know, they're trying to edit the deafness out of genes, so no baby would be born deaf, and people are calling it cultural genocide because goddamn, someone tries to eradicate diseases and disabilities. So get a deaf actor like Nal DeMarco to play Hawkeye and let him work with Hawkeye Kate Bishop, which is an amazing hit. Kate Bishop really brings a lot of money for Marvel. It would be amazing. This isn't the first time Marvel fans have voiced support for Renner to be replaced with a deaf or hard of hearing actor. Hard hearing Hawkeye. Last year, activist Niall DeMarco, which as you can see is here. So here he's an actor. Well, here he's just an activist. Niall DeMarco called for Hawkeye to be played by a deaf actor since the character is canonically deaf in Marvel Comics. So let's unpack that. So we have gay, deaf, and sassy comics guy. For him, Niall DeMarco is an actor, but for the author, he's an activist who calls for Hawkeye to be played by a deaf actor. So presumably you'd get someone kind of resembling Hawkeye, like fit, you know, looks like this a bit. So I don't know how many actors are deaf and kind of look like Hawkeye. Probably just Niall DeMarco. So he basically called for himself to play the role, and then gay, deaf, and sassy comics guy also calls for him to play the role. So already he has 2 supporters. Good job, Niall DeMarco. Also, if you wonder why SJWs kind of infest and take over different hobbies, fandoms, things like that, is so they could, and why they change stuff is because, so imagine having the conversation without Hawkeye being deaf. So imagine having the conversation 3 years ago, basically. And it would go something like SJW would say, oh, I want Hawkeye to be deaf. And someone who, you know, actually knows something about the character would be like, but he's not deaf in the comics, so why make him deaf? Like, his whole job would be a lot harder if he's deaf. You know, you're supposed to be a super spy. You're supposed to like know when you're making noise, so you could not be heard while doing spy stuff, and also hear people around you so you can take them out. So they would say this argument, and then the person would have nothing to say. So then the SJW goes to Marvel, works there, makes Hawkeye deaf, and now he's like, yeah, it's canonical. He's deaf. He should be played by a deaf actor. Of course he would. Of course he would. Clint's disability is addressed in Matt Fraction and David Aja's run of Hawkeye, and Marvel's upcoming series from Matthew Rosenberg and Otto Schmidt, Hawkeye Freefall. I'm sure this was a great hit, and this one is gonna be an even bigger hit. Really, really sure. Although Marvel Studio has made a great deal of headway, including more representation in terms of women and people of color in the MCU, Hawkeye remains a major blind spot by not having a deaf actor playing a character who is deaf in the comics. When they cast him as Hawkeye, Hawkeye wasn't deaf because this is a recent addition. How would you imagine the people casting the actor for the movie would think that 5 years from now or 6 years from now or an amount of time from now, Marvel Comics is gonna make the character deaf, and now you have to like, what we should have someone deaf just in case they decide to make him deaf. Also, you don't have to be deaf to play a deaf character. You don't have to be disabled to play a disability if it's something you can act out. So, another example, Inhumans, which is the show Marvel kind of tries to forget about. But what's good about it is the actor playing Black Bolt. So Black Bolt, for all intents and purposes, is a mute. Okay, he's not really mute in the sense he can speak, but if he whispers, he levels mountains. So he's kind of constrained to not talking, basically a mute. So what was very interesting about that character, other than the fact that the actor did an amazing job playing him, is that they made a whole fictional sign language for the show. And that's why I was so sad to see that show do so badly. One, I like the Inhumans a lot. Two, I like Black Bolt a lot. I think he's a very, very good character. And three, they put so much work. They did this, and nobody required them to actually do it. In the comics, kind of goes like his wife kind of always understands him by his like facial expression or the look of his eyes or something. But that was actually a great addition to the character. So even though it changed the comics canon, well, not the canon, but like it didn't respect the comics canon, better said. There's a miniseries from the late 90s, and the whole conflict of that miniseries is based on the fact that Black Bolt doesn't speak. So things are going from bad to worse, and all of his family and fellow Inhumans that he governs are getting restless with his inaction, and that's because he can't talk, and all the tension comes from that very point. But you're thinking like, wouldn't it be easier to like just have a sign language? Probably. Like, a person needs to communicate somehow. But as I said in the comics, like his wife kind of like gets him. But that was a very good miniseries, a great presentation of the Inhumans, if you'd like. And its whole conflict was rendered moot by this addition they had in the TV show. Also, the actor was a mute, but he did an amazing job. He was the best thing in the series. He was so good that it made everyone look even worse than they were. Anyways, that's my thoughts on the whole let's cancel Jeremy Renner and HEARIN HAWKEYE fiasco that's kind of going on. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please like it. If you have anything to add about this subject or anything else you'd like to see on my channel, I kind of started doing comic arcs. I wasn't really going to do this story, but then I saw it and I was like, I have to do it. I was planning to do Emerald Dawn 2, I did Emerald Dawn 1, my last video. It's the origin of the Green Lantern from the 80s. That's pretty much it. Please subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later. Bye.